My wife was giggling uncontrollably with her pals when I overheard them. I've been cheating on him for years, and he has no idea. Huge snorts of laughter escaped them all. Silence engulfed me. Unexpectedly, though, she had a shock as she sobbed her way to my door. 33M here. I certainly didn't anticipate being the man who posts on this sub. Get ready for an exciting journey ahead. Let me tell you something. My original plan for last weekend was to go on an overnight excursion with the lads to another state to witness the game. For months, I've been plotting it out. However, we had to cancel due to Daryl's child becoming unwell at the last minute. So what? Things go wrong. I thought I'd come home early to surprise Heather, my 32-year-old wife of 8 years. You may think you know the ending to these stories, but believe me, it always ends that way. Compared to sneaking up on her with another guy, what followed was even worse. Around 9 o'clock in the evening, I saw a number of cars parked outside our driveway. Swiftly identified the Subaru owned by Michelle and the Honda owned by Kathleen. Since Heather had already planned to have the girls over while I was away, everything was set. I could hear them all from our back deck through the side gate just as I was about to enter in the front door. Their level of noise was exorbitant, loudly imbibing wine. Hearing my name made me want to turn around and say hello again. I had to stop for a moment. Take it as an instinct, if you will. Griffin embodies the essence of a. Just the thought of that makes me cringe. Heather was slightly stumbling over her words. A chorus of giggles escaped the females. The length of time you've kept this going, Michelle's voice, is unbelievable. I've been cheating on him for years, and he has no idea. Heather essentially yelled it out. Huge snorts of laughter escaped them all. I halted in the middle of my step. It was as if my mind abruptly froze for a second. Getting a Sutton has been the wisest move of my life. Heather went on. Sutton dropped by last week as Griffin was working late, and we did it on the couch, where Griffin takes his beautiful naps. An additional round of giggles. No, the holy slumber sofa. As if this were the funniest thing imaginable, Kathleen let out a squeal of delight. Griffin made me breakfast the following day, and you should have seen how kind he was. Oh, if he could only guess as to what his beloved wife had been up to the night before. As I stood up, my stomach sank. Someone had hit me in the stomach. That morning meal. Her go-to avocado toast and her favorite fancy eggs were both prepared by me. Feathered her brew on the bed. I expressed my affection for her. For some reason, I just stood there and listened to them tell tales. Every muscle in my body trembled. When I was on business travels, she loved having Sutton over. I found out that they had been having sexual relations for more than 3 years. She even said she couldn't attend my dad's funeral because she had food poisoning, although she was actually with him that weekend. They were not confronted by me. Minimized disruption. I returned to my car in silence. Took a short drive to the Target parking lot and sat down till I felt better. I looked really bonkers. At 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, an adult guy is hyperventilating in his vehicle. After I regained some kind of composure, I contacted Daryl. He felt better, and his child picked up, so it was a relief. My entire world has crumbled, man. I spilled the beans to him. His advice: stay put for the night. Stay here and we'll sort it out. While Daryl was on the phone looking up divorce attorneys online, I wandered the living room aimlessly for hours. Everything that had happened in the previous few years suddenly made perfect sense, and my thoughts kept going back to them. She returned from the girls' trips with almost no photos. Apparently, she'd begun to hide her phone from view. Hotels within 30 miles of our home have charged us for things we don't understand. She showed clients' houses after business hours every single night. It was as if I were the biggest idiot alive. At about 3 in the morning, Heather texted me. Here, the girls are crashed. With the boys. I hope we're having a good time. I adore you. I almost tossed my phone out the window. What gall. As Daryl snatched my phone, he warned me that I needed to be strategic about this. Keep her in the dark. I am not ready just yet. The following day, I acted as if nothing had happened. I told her that I had gotten drunk and crashed at Daryl's. Without a doubt, she bought it. While still nursing a hangover, she mustered the audacity to gripe about being obligated to clean up after the girls. I entered a state of reconnaissance for the subsequent week. I looked at her phone while she was in the shower. Years of unexpected client communications amounting to thousands of SMS. Money from accommodation. Explicit images. I emailed myself screenshots of everything. Our finances were reviewed. Lots of strange bills from restaurants I'd never eaten at. Unfamiliar lingerie. Even while I was at my dad's funeral, she had used our shared account to arrange for a weekend retreat. Every new revelation stabbed me in the chest. After 8 years of wedlock, every time someone in my family claimed she seemed self-centered, I would defend her. Imaginations and preparations for the future we share. Having a family next year is something we've discussed. Completely false. While I was on lunch, I spoke with a divorce lawyer. According to evaluations on Google, it is the most aggressive one in town. She explained everything to me. Take notes on everything. Protect my money. Be ready for the onslaught. I see this every day, Griffin, she informed me. Refraining from approaching her just yet is the correct course of action. You will be in a better position if we are well prepared. Something happened inside of me that night as I saw Heather chuckling at something on her phone, perhaps texting him. I was still in pain, but it had transformed from fire to icy water in my veins. It dawned on me that I wanted more than simply to end my marriage. For justice I yearned. You see, Heather's entire sense of self was based on how she was perceived and valued. What her social standing is. She was well known for it. She meticulously crafted her Instagram picture as this ideal wife leading an ideal life. Being the go-to person for guidance was something she took great delight in. She relies on her friend group's moral compass. Finally, I had evidence that the whole thing was false. I began to take action. Put half of our savings into a separate account under my name. Secured critical papers with a password. Detailed every one of our assets. Seized photographs of all costly items within the residence. Whatever my attorney suggested. At the same time, I pretended that nothing was wrong. Goodbye kissed her each morning. Messaged to find out how her day ended. I sat down next to her and watched Netflix as she texted Sutton. As I meticulously prepared to detonate her entire world, I pretended to be her naive husband every day. After 2 weeks, I felt prepared. I had every detail recorded. Balance sheets. Proof of the scandal. Completed and paid for the lease on a new apartment. Encouragement from my relatives who were appalled by her actions. Maintaining composure while she looked me in the eyes and lied was the most challenging aspect. I love you would be her last words before turning in for the night. When she proposed that we begin our attempts to conceive next month. Every time, I had the want to yell at her, but I controlled myself.
Why?
Because I had knowledge that she lacked. The woman who made fun of my ignorance was completely unaware. She was about to encounter the most systematic and merciless adversary she had ever encountered in me. Additionally, I intended to adhere strictly to all protocols. Briefly put, listened in as wife boasted to friends about her years of infidelity. I have avoided addressing her by spending weeks amassing evidence and formulating a thorough divorce plan. Time is running out until D-Day. Recent development. Holy cow, you all, first and foremost. I had no idea my post would get so much attention. Much obliged for your assistance. And the gold from Reddit. WTF. If you're wondering if this counts as creative writing, my answer is yes. 3 weeks have passed since I last provided an update. So much has transpired. Get comfortable. Do you recall that I said you should have a strategy? So far, I've been carrying it out with an air of military exactitude. Some strangeness crossed my path the day following my last post. Heather began to be exceptionally kind. Cozying up with my go-to meals. Getting the bed wet. Advising that we even consider homes in more desirable areas. I was worried she figured out I was aware at first. But then it hit me. I am guilty. The 3 a.m. Reddit threads I'd been reading avidly described this as classic cheater behavior. Give me the rundown on everything I've been up to. Pay for it. At the top of the list was this. I had already transferred half of our savings to my own account. I proceeded to record each and every expenditure that was associated with her affair. Are those hotel fees? Organize by item. Her dinners with Sutton were really with customers, despite her claims to the contrary. Data table. She purchased the intimate apparel for him. The receipts were photographed. According to my attorney, this might constitute the diversion of marital assets. She basically went on an affair with our money. We also had our combined credit cards frozen. I notified her that the bank was sending new ones due to suspected activity. I admitted, I was able to deactivate her authorization on my primary card at this period. How did her expression change when Sephora denied her card? Important, but not cheap. It was so humiliating that she called me and went on a tirade about it. As a complete idiot, I pretended the new cards were late. Real estate. I deftly relocated all of my valuable possessions to my new flat. Please, not all of it at once. Nothing less than priceless heirlooms, such as my father's watch, pictures of our family, and vital documents. While she was showing houses, I did this. That is, deceiving Sutton. To avoid her detection, I would reorganize things or buy a cheap imitation whenever I removed anything. The bundle of proof. Here is where Daryl completely lost it. He was instrumental in helping me put everything together into the nuclear file. A USB containing recordings of her phone conversations with Sutton, in addition to screenshots of texts, images, hotel receipts, credit card records, and a chronology of her affair. It's a one-party consent state right now. I duplicated it several times. Mine, please. My attorney needs one. One for the wife of Sutton. Yep, I tracked her down. Hello, Laura. Seems like a kind woman who was completely unaware. And one that Heather's parents would receive in due time. A social perspective. That was difficult. So that Heather couldn't make up a plot to make me look bad, I wanted to take charge of the storyline. As a result, I began engaging in guy talk with our mutual acquaintances. Not much is immediately apparent. I was just about to say that Heather has been feeling really cold as of late. Curious as to whether or not this kind of isolation is typical in a marriage. Sow seeds of uncertainty while concealing my knowledge. Additionally, I captured images from Heather's Instagram, where she flaunted our marriage as an ideal relationship objective when she was in the midst of an affair. It was the height of hypocrisy. D-Day rolled around. Strategically, I chose it. This was the day Heather had been looking forward to for months, her grand customer appreciation party. The events unfolded as follows. I pretended to be perfectly ordinary that morning. Brew coffee. Bid farewell with a kiss. May her event be a success, I wished her. I now see that I had essentially paid for her to appear good for other men. She departed looking fiercely confident in her pricey dress. I had the evidence package couriered to Sutton's wife at precisely 10 o'clock in the morning. I gave her my number in case she wanted to get in touch. Everything came crashing down around midday. When the texts began rolling in, I was already at my new apartment. Tell me why Sutton's wife is contacting me. Has anyone spoken to her? Please answer your phone. I remained silent. Have just saw the messages accumulate. After that, I got a call from Sutton's wife Laura. For about an hour, we conversed. Despite her grief, she was relieved that I informed her. Sutton apparently had been using her paranoia as a weapon for years. The source informed me that Sutton was currently attempting to salvage his marriage by fully blaming Heather. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Heather's client event had completely fallen apart. The necessity demanded that she depart promptly. She couldn't stop contacting me. I communicated with her parents by short, factual email at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Avoid using emoticons. Just the essential evidence and time frame. They have my utmost regard. Plus, it's only fair that they find out the truth about their daughter. I tried to convey my reluctance to cause them harm. I refused to give Heather the reins of the story. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Heather returned home, and I was sitting serenely in our living room. She appeared to have aged 10 years all in one day, what with her mascara being all over the place. Anger was her initial emotion. Should I even tell Laura? How could I treat her with such contempt? She then proceeded to bargain as soon as she noticed that I wasn't responding. Everything was exhausted. Gushing sobs. Cry out. Seduction. Even more sobs. I remained as level-headed as a cucumber and just stated that we are both well aware of what is happening. The divorce papers that my attorney had drafted were then presented to her. She paled when she recognized this wasn't an emotional response. It had been weeks of meticulous preparation as I slept close to her. Upon further inspection, she discovered that I had misplaced a few items. My plan B was already outlined to her, and I would notify our landlord of the violation of our lease agreement after she had 3 days to determine her living arrangements. We maintained a code of ethics. Still another thing that helped my attorney. What followed was an intriguing few days. The tone of her threats fluctuated. Nothing good will ever come of this. Trying to beg. This can be resolved. Nothing more than that. You are the only one I've ever loved. Furthermore, attempting to portray oneself as the helpless victim. Alone I stood. Work is something you do as well. Her inner circle, meanwhile, was crumbling. After Michelle and Kathleen realized their involvement could be exposed, they abruptly stopped communicating with her. The interaction her parents had with her over the phone was really disheartening. Her mother's remarks when she apologized to me over the phone. As for Sutton, along with his wife, that coward was doing damage control, admitting to her that Heather had an unhealthy fixation on him, and they wouldn't let him be. She was shocked to learn that half of our savings had been transferred to my account lawfully. Our combined credit cards were no longer accessible to her. Rent would be too expensive for her to pay alone. The last nail in the coffin was yesterday, when her event fiasco confirmed she would likely lose clients. Through their common acquaintances, she learned that her actions are well known. Apparently Sutton's wife informed her friends, who in turn informed their friends, and so on. I didn't go around informing people directly. Her carefully crafted social circle, centered around her idealized self-image, was crumbling. Earlier this evening, she dropped by my new digs. It is quite likely that she obtained my address through a mutual acquaintance who works at the leasing office located across town. On my doorstep, she was crying. Applying makeup. Appears to be totally shattered. I nearly felt sorry for her for an instant. Nearly there. My neighbors were becoming suspicious, so I let her in because I hate making a big deal. She wasted no time getting into the details of how bad her decision had been. How far she would go to resolve the issue. It was unbelievable that she had put our marriage on the line for Sutton. Remember when you told your buddies I was too naive to notice you were cheating? I simply looked at her and asked. Surprising, I know. When she realized I had overheard everything that happened that night, her expression changed. It is unfathomable. Complete and utter shock. Shock followed. Afterwards, feel embarrassed. She got halfway through a statement about how she was being facetious. Intoxicated, she walked around erect. All it was empty rhetoric. Because I had something to show her, I interrupted her and told her to sit down. Heather had a shock she wasn't expecting as she sobbed her way to my door. A detailed account of her recent financial situation. I had meticulous estimates, charts, and a full breakdown of how screwed she would be following this divorce. Briefly put, carried out my strategy precisely. Revealed the affair of the wife to all those affected. I protected my wealth as she saw her entire universe crumble before my eyes. Instead of forgiveness, she received a harsh financial reality check when she came pleading with me. Last revision. I haven't posted anything in 6 months. Just wanted to say thanks for the direct messages asking if I'm okay. Yes, I am. The culmination to this entire saga is now here. I just needed some time to digest everything. Do you remember those videos on YouTube where they tear down historic structures? Initially, there are a series of strategically placed explosions, and eventually, the entire edifice falls apart. My ex-wife's life was essentially like that. I was seated in the very first row. I awoke to an unusual feeling of tranquility the morning following Heather's sobbing arrival to my place. Finally, after months of suffering with the incessant knot in my stomach, I was able to get a good night's sleep. I brewed a pot of coffee, perused Reddit, and then remembered that I hadn't checked my phone for her messages right away. Progress. Heather, meantime, was a victim of consequences culture, as my therapist would later describe it. She evidently expected her best friend Michelle to take her in when she left my flat and drove directly to her place. Despite the presence of her car in the driveway and the lights being turned on, Our common friend Jake claims that Michelle acted as if she were not home. That is the epitome of friendship. Since then, what has transpired? Enable me to dissect it for you. Dispute resolution. Unexpectedly, the legal procedure went off without a hitch. Investing in my lawyer was a wise decision. Because a single slip-up shouldn't ruin a marriage of 8 years, Heather attempted to assert at mediation that she was entitled to half of the assets. The mediator, an elderly woman with a low tolerance for nonsense, merely stared at her and inquired whether 3 years of proven adultery constituted a single error. Heather began threatening instead of her typical tearful routine after she noticed it wasn't working. I was never harsh, but she threatened to tarnish my reputation and make the divorce a living hell. My attorney merely passed Sutton the visual proof and told her that adultery can affect alimony determinations in Maryland. Like bringing a knife to a nuclear war, Heather's expression was priceless. After 2 weeks of negotiation, we reached an agreement. I retained control of our majority of assets and my retirement funds. She had enough to start afresh, but it was far from her previous standard of living. Actually, the judge complimented her on her good fortune considering the circumstances. The consequences on the bank. Even I had a hard time seeing this bit. Because of her parents' retirement community, Heather had no choice but to move in with them. So here she is, 32 years old, downsized from our posh apartment to a floral-patterned guest room where she has slept on a twin bed since her high school days. For a while, she made an effort to maintain her Instagram persona. There were several cryptic quotations about maturation and having faith in the process, presented from strategic angles that concealed the fact that she was still residing in her childhood bedroom. The strange thing about social media nowadays is how open it is. Posting throwbacks instead of fresh material is sure to catch people's attention. She was already in a precarious financial position before she lost her work. Not in any direct way related to the scandal. The fact that she was chronically tardy and absent from work made her manager unconcerned with her private life. Probably depression. I must admit, I grasped that portion. Results on a societal level. Observing this unfold was the most interesting aspect. I was unprepared for the manner in which our social circle broke apart. Griffin Squad. Dan, it's apparent. Most of my co-workers, Jake and his wife included. Additionally, Heather's peculiar cousin Tina, who seemed to have known Heather, was self-centered from the start. Heather and her team. At first, it was simply her parents, but rumor has it that even they were distant from her. Then, for some reason, she re-established contact with Kathleen, who was going through a divorce and feeling the same way about males. No team. The majority of people simply avoid us and our situation. Not sure I blame them. Divorce drama is something no one wants to deal with. Michelle was the most peculiar turn of events. Heather contacted me on Facebook to see how I was doing after she first ghosted me. Curious if we could meet up for coffee at some point. No, I said no. There was something fishy about her jumping ship as soon as Heather started to struggle. The matter involving Sutton. We stayed in touch. Laura is Sutton's wife. As a couple, no. Just two people dealing with comparable betrayals, that was all. We would meet for lunch once every couple weeks to catch up and share updates. Sutton allegedly attempted reconciliation strategies reminiscent of a cheesy romantic comedy by doing things like sending huge bouquets of flowers to her office, standing outside their house with a boombox, and even attempting to engage their pastor. It was all in vain. 3 weeks following D-Day, Laura relocated to Pennsylvania to live with her sister after filing for a divorce. From what I understand, her fiancé is a kindergarten teacher who also volunteers as a weekend Little League coach. I applaud her. Sutton made an attempt to contact me. I sent this lengthy text about how Heather relentlessly pursued him and how we are both victims. I just said, which was appropriate while yet coming across as dismissive. This is my story. Writing about this phase is more challenging. After I moved out, I essentially became reclusive for the first month. Done the trick. Get back to my house. Had DoorDash delivered. Watched every new Netflix series in one sitting. Fall asleep. Go over it again. A mattress from a dorm room lay on the floor of my flat. A single kettle. There are 2 plates. Simplified design. After much deliberation, Daryl decided to step in. I was compelled to open up about my feelings when you showed up with bagels one Saturday morning. I usually don't get emotional, But that day was really tough. Spun out to him things I was too ashamed to admit to myself. Underneath all that rage, actually, all I felt was sadness. What a shame those years were for nothing. Depressed about the prospects I had for the future. It makes me sad that someone I trusted so much could betray me with such ease. I commenced therapy thereafter. Looked him up on BetterHelp, a website that specializes on trauma related to betrayal. He made no effort to promote the Hallmark card ideas of reconciliation or forgiveness. Simply provided me with a means to reflect on what transpired and go forward. Gradual progress was made. The bed frame is in good shape. I enrolled in a soccer league in my neighborhood. Refrained from apologizing when asked to attend social functions. Rather than subsisting on protein powders and frozen pizzas, I got back into the kitchen. After getting a divorce 2 months ago, I finally went on a date. Coffee with a woman I met in a meet-up hiking group. Nothing major, just chatting. Incredibly uncomfortable. Talking normally to a stranger was something I'd completely forgotten how to do. Still, it was a beginning. The showdown that ends it all. Something out of the ordinary occurred last week. I went to Home Depot to get paint for my apartment. At last I had had enough of staring at blank walls when Heather and I nearly collided with our carts. Her appearance had changed. Trimmed the beard and dressed more subduedly. We were both confused for an instant. She proceeded to inquire if we could spare a moment to chat. I consented despite my misgivings. Outside, we sat on a seat with our Home Depot bags held aloft like shields. She began by apologizing from the heart. Just the truth, no spinning the blame. Took the time to admit how much she hurt me and how she was trying to figure out why she had acted the way she had. Truly, I will say this. An anticipation of manipulation, sorrow, and a possible reconciliation washed over me. Nonetheless, that day never came. She merely wished for me to understand her remorse. Furthermore, she was also attending therapy. She also expressed concern for my well-being. Then she broke the news that she was uprooting her life and heading to Chicago. Until she found a place of her own, she was staying with a college buddy and had an interview scheduled. What was most peculiar? Everything was emotionless to me. Embrace calmness. Lack of discomfort. I didn't even feel content with the outcome. I mean, really, not a bit. Similar like tuning in to the series finale after losing interest in the middle of the show. Farewell was uncomfortably exchanged. Absent embrace. Simply a nod. Something she said as she walked away has stayed with me. I loved you, even if it's irrelevant anymore. To be honest, I had no idea what it meant to love someone. That includes me. As I watched her drive away, I couldn't help but think about how that encounter would have utterly devastated me 6 months prior. Now it was merely a peculiar errand to run on a Tuesday afternoon when I ran into an old acquaintance. Right now, everything is falling into place in my new apartment. I have my very own space, even if it's smaller than the flat we shared. Avoid emotional pitfalls. Absent are any lingering recollections. Just a place where I'm starting to feel at home. The job is okay. I love my friends. No worries here. The majority of the time. Even now, every now and then, I'll hear a song or see an image that brings back memories of her. Plus, it hurts. But there are fewer and fewer of those occasions. Just in case, I have backups on a disk that is secured in my safe, but I no longer require those timelines and screenshots cluttering up my digital life, so I erased all of the evidence files from my computer yesterday. It had a symbolic quality about it. Just like cleaning your browser's cache, I've started dating someone new in real life. Relaxing a bit. She has a general idea of what transpired, but she is unaware of the gory specifics. She listens when I need space and is understanding of my trust difficulties. It's wonderful to sense that possibility returning, even though it's too soon to tell if it will go anywhere. I heard from Heather's mom, who strangely continues to send me birthday cards, that she's doing fine in Chicago. Was hired. Just got a flat. Finding new acquaintances. A part of me is really happy about it. This marks the end of an era for us both, and not only because I hope she does well. The woman who made fun of my inability to see her treachery ultimately had to learn the most difficult lesson of all. That there are results to one's acts. It takes years to develop a reputation, but only moments to ruin it. Furthermore, It is impossible to fix some problems after trust is damaged. Where am I? I discovered that my strength exceeds my expectations. That making a fresh start isn't the same as giving up, and that taking someone else's life isn't the greatest way to get even. Rebuilding your own, enhancing it from the previous iteration. Briefly put, my life is slowly coming back together after my divorce was finalized and my ex-wife relocated across the nation. Most of the destruction of her life occurred as a result of unnatural causes, whereas my own personal renaissance is ongoing.